Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to The Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault. If you're like most of us, you've been denied a GLP-1 at least once. But did you know that less than 1% of denied claims are ever even appealed, even though the data suggests that over 60% of appeals are often approved? That means that people who should be paying $25 a month are instead paying thousands of dollars a year out of pocket, not necessarily because appeals don't work, but because the process is confusing and time-consuming. But that's where Honest Care comes in. You go to their site, and then you just start with a quick assessment. And then Honest Care will build your appeal with the clinical and medical arguments that your insurer needs to hear, and then guide you through submitting it. If you've been denied, don't stop there, because most appeals must be filed within 90 days. So don't wait. Go to findhonestcare.com/Kim to get your free assessment today. That's findhonestcare.com/Kim.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper, with results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
But you know what? We'll persevere. In a few days, I'll be in New Orleans where it'll be like 80 degrees, and then I'll be happy as heck down there.
So we are talking about fitness today, and I'm excited because you're certified to talk about all the things. So we can kind of dig in a little bit. Can you just first start off with like your actual, like your fitness journey? Because I know it's very interesting, and you're getting a lot of attention for your fitness journey lately.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was recently featured in the New York Times a few weeks ago, and it was specifically about people who begin to find joy in moving their body, working out, whatever you want to call it, movement, working out, exercise. With a GLP-1. And so they found me, and I did a couple interviews, and I did a photo shoot. Next thing you know, my picture's like up there on the New York Times, kind of wild.
Photo shoot. Was there a fan?
They said, hey, we need to send a photographer for a photo shoot. And they wanted to meet at my gym. And I thought, okay, this is fine. It's going to take like 10 minutes. And it ended up being a 3-hour long photo shoot. We did like an hour and a half at my gym. And then we went to a park. So they took pictures of me walking. It was 5 degrees, and I was outside for an hour walking. It was pretty brutal, but it ended up being a really good story. And what I appreciated about it, it wasn't about weight loss specifically. It's about actually moving your body and the joy you get out of that. And I think it's really important, as I'll talk a little bit more about my movement, my physical fitness stuff, but it's really important to separate weight loss from exercise. Movement. They should not be connected. And if you end up viewing weight loss as like movement or exercise, a thing you have to do to lose weight, if you end up like having an injury, which is common, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, today. When you don't have the motivation or you're sick, it can be very easy to give up on everything. So instead, this story was just about people who find joy in movement just for the joy of movement, not necessarily for weight loss. But I'm 47 now. Over the years, I'd worked out a few separate times joining a gym, really 2 times in particular. I mean, early 2000s, I joined a gym and was lifting weights, didn't have a trainer, but was lifting weights and playing racquetball. And then at that point, it was all about weight loss. I did the Atkins diet. Remember the Atkins diet for those who are old enough? And I lost a lot of weight, but then I hurt myself in the gym and then ended up going back to eating the way that I had been before. I gained all the weight back and didn't work out. And then later on in 2013, I joined a gym for a couple of years and got a trainer. He was great. I did not lose any weight. I gained weight somehow while working out. Well, I know exactly what I was doing. What I was doing at that point is I was working out really hard and then saying, this is a good workout. I'm going to reward myself and stop at McDonald's on the way home. That was a very helpful thing.
It's balance.
That's what I thought. Anyway, so my heaviest got to be 650 pounds. I lost 50 pounds with no medication, just sort of, quote, the old fashioned way. And I knew I wouldn't keep it off. So I started using a GLP-1 when I was 600 pounds and started seeing a lot of stuff about people on GLP-1s losing muscle. Not because GLP-1s necessarily cause you to lose muscle, but you're losing weight quickly. And when you lose weight quickly, you can lose a lot of muscle in the process. And I did not want to do that because in the past, I'd lost muscle and regained fat and it destroyed my metabolism. So once I was physically able to start actually working out was about 550 pounds. So I'd lost about 100 pounds total. And I started working out from home, just using very basic exercises, using just my body or using things around the house like jugs of water, things like that. And I actually now do workouts where on YouTube and TikTok where I show you how to do this stuff that I was doing it when I was 550 pounds. Then once I got to about 475, I started walking a lot. And now I walk, I encourage people don't copy me, but I walk at this point between 7 and 10 miles every day. It took a long time to get there. But once I was about 475, I could walk more. So one thing I really encourage people to do is, especially if they're beginning, is don't try to do everything at once. Don't try to, join a gym and work out 4 days a week. And for most people, that's not going to work. What worked for me was just very slowly building up with time. And it can be confusing because people can look at me now and see a before and after and think, wow, I got to do what he's doing because he's lost so much weight. But I did not start doing what I'm doing now. I started just standing up and sitting down over and over in a chair. That's how I started.
That's movement. In fact, that's a good segue. Because a lot of people in our audience, they might be just starting out and they immediately think like what you said, movement is weight loss. And I can tell you, since I moved all of my life, no way. And I gained up and down weight so much, but while I was still always working out. So it's totally true. It's not the goal. So can you give us some recommendations or kind of go in a little bit more in depth of what you do as like just beginning, beginning, or even sometimes people who are struggling with like say knee injuries, back injuries, how can we still incorporate them? That little baby step.
Yeah. Well, I think before we start talking about like specific movements you can do, I think it's important for people to understand why you should be doing this. And I don't know if I did this. I think I maybe did this on your podcast before, but I do that when I go on TikTok. I'll often do this. Back when TikTok actually let us talk about anything. No, not anymore. But anyway, so this is a pound of muscle and this is a pound of fat. For those who are watching on YouTube, you can see that the muscle is a little bit smaller than the fat. They're both a pound. The muscle's a bit more dense. But if you're listening to us, you can just imagine me holding a pound of muscle in one hand and a pound of fat in the other. And when we're trying to lose weight, it means we're in a calorie deficit. A GLP-1 allows us to be in a calorie deficit a little bit easier because we're eating generally fewer calories than our body's burning. So if our body has to burn a certain number of calories every day just to stay alive, and if you're eating less calories than that, your body starts to eat itself. And we love that. That's how we lose weight. Our body's literally eating itself for energy. The problem is that if you're in a calorie deficit, your body, when it wants to eat itself, goes to your muscle first. And the reason it does that is because your muscle is very metabolically active. On average, your muscle burns, just to stay alive, triple the calories that your fat does every day. And so when you're in a deficit and your body starts to realize, oh no, I'm in trouble, I'm starving, it's going to get rid of your muscle first, because the more muscle it gets rid of, the more efficient your body gets. And our body, we don't like efficiency, because efficiency means it burns as few calories as possible. So your body will start going after your muscle. So let's pretend that you're not doing any sort of movement, any resistance training or strength training, and you're in a calorie deficit. Your body goes to take, let's say, 2 pounds that you need to lose this week. It takes a pound of muscle and a pound of fat. And you lose 2 pounds, which is great. Hooray, I'm happy. And every week you lose 2 pounds. Over the course of time, you've lost a lot of weight. The problem is you've lost a lot of muscle and you've kept a lot of fat. And the results of that are, one, it doesn't look very good. If you've ever heard of skinny fat, that's what skinny fat is. But worse than that, because you've lost so much muscle, your metabolism has slowed down quite a bit. Your metabolic rate's gone down, which means that you just burn fewer calories every day. So it means that you create stalls and plateaus sooner, so you stop losing weight sooner. And the worst part is you can begin to regain weight. That's why people say, hey, me and my friend, we're the same height, we're the same age, we weigh the same. She can eat whatever she wants and never gains an ounce. And I look at a cookie and gain a pound. And that might be because your friend has more muscle than you. So your friend's metabolism is just much higher than yours is. Mm-hmm. And what happens over the course of time, many of us have lost weight and regained these cycles of weight loss. The problem is when we lose weight, we often lose muscle. And when we regain, we tend to regain a lot more fat, which means that we can start and end at the same weight, having lost and regained, but our metabolism is slower afterwards, which means that we're more likely to gain weight. That's part of how I got to be 650 pounds. So let's pretend that you are now doing resistance training. And resistance training, we'll talk about some examples here. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and be some beefcake or gym bunny or something.
Not at all.
Yeah, there are things you can do from home, which we'll talk about. But let's say you're using your muscle. Now, we'll pretend again your body needs to lose 2 pounds. It goes to your muscle and says, all right, give me, I'm going to take a pound of you. And your muscle says, nope. Because if you were using your muscle, you will not lose it. Because your body likes to have it. It's good for your body. But when your body's using it, it keeps it. So if you're using your muscle and you're feeding it protein, because that's what muscle feeds off of is protein. Now your body says, okay, fine, I can't take 2 pounds of you. I'm going to take 2 pounds of fat because I need 2 pounds this week to survive. Yeah. Again, you've lost 2 pounds just like before. The difference is that now over the course of time, you've kept your muscle and you've lost your fat. So you look better. That's what being lean and toned means. It doesn't mean you have a ton of muscle. It means that you've just kept muscle while losing fat. But the better part, at least for me, is your metabolism is much higher. So you don't stall as quickly. You lose more weight. You're much less likely to regain. And so by doing that, you set yourself up for long-term success in a much better way. Now, the wonderful thing about this, if you've already lost weight and you're stalling and you think you've lost a lot of muscle, your muscle can come back. By eating protein and doing resistance training, your muscle has a memory and it'll come back to you surprisingly quickly. And so you can get this back and begin to set yourself up for success. The thing to be careful of is muscle weighs something. So when you start getting your muscle back, the scale might go up. Mm-hmm. Really scary. But think of it like putting gas in your car. Your car weighs more after you put gas in it. But does that mean your car's not working anymore? No, it just means your car's ready to go a lot longer. And that's what muscle does for you. So in the short term, you might have some gain, but in the long run, it's the best thing that you can do for yourself. So when we talk about movement and resistance training and strength training, we're not talking about that because we think it'll help you lose weight. It's a critical part of this entire process. And it's one that everyone should find a way to incorporate into their life. So anyway, Kat, that's a really long answer, but I think people to know why they should do this, not just here are the things to do.
Absolutely. Especially the why. The why is really important. And also I'm thinking as we age, we're all of a certain age and your bone density starts to give way. Yeah. And lifting weights and doing strength training helps strengthen your bones as well as you age. So even doing functional moves, just getting, what you said, getting up and out of your chair. That's a
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, muscle is very protective for us. It protects your bones, like we said. It takes some of the pressure off of your joints, your ligaments, your tendons. Muscle allows those things to be better with time. And so, in addition to just how you look and weight loss, muscle is really critical. And one thing I really worry about with GLP-1s, and I'm a GLP-1 success story. I'm the world's biggest fan. So, but I still have concerns about them, not necessarily for me, but for the community overall. And I worry that while we're creating a lot of people losing weight, which is great, and they're getting their health better, I worry that we're creating a number of people who are under muscled, who don't have enough muscle. And it's important for you to have that just for your health as you go. So it's not too late. If you're watching or listening to this, you're like, it's too late for me. It is not too late for you. It does not matter how old you are or where you are in your weight loss journey. If you're at the beginning, if you're at the end, it is never too late to get started with some of these very basic movements that we'll talk about today.
Yeah. I remember you mentioned something like when Kim was just getting into fitness, and we were at the Obesity Action Coalition in DC last year. Yep. And you said something to Kim because Kim was apprehensive about starting strength training. And I think a lot of people in this community do share this thought that you assured her she was okay. You said when you were heavier, you have muscular strength because your body was used to carrying it at such a heavier weight.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And so what it means is that if there's any benefit to those of us who've had obesity, it's that we actually have a little bit more muscle than maybe we would have otherwise. And so keeping muscle is relatively surprisingly easy. Basic resistance training a few times a week is enough for most of us to keep our muscle, as long as we're not in an extreme calorie deficit. But I mean, Kim, she did great. We worked out, the three of us worked out together. You clearly knew what you were doing. And so you didn't need a lot of training from me. Kim was new, but she did great. And I know she still does a lot of movements, incorporates into her life. And so it's really, really important thing for us to do and not difficult. And it doesn't have to be scary.
Yeah, I think that's the important part. It's not scary. It's not scary. I do know that a lot of people have been become gym averse. Like if they've had negative experiences, a lot of us maybe dealt with a little bit of bullying in our past, and we're just afraid people are going to judge us. But quite honestly, nobody is really, really judging you. And if you're, I would say if you're afraid to gym, let's talk a little bit about doing workouts at home. In fact, that's probably what you had to do today in this blizzard.
Yeah. And the point of the gym, so now that I'm a certified personal trainer with the National Academy of Sports Medicine, I'm actually working with them on a regular basis. I've flown down there a few times to their headquarters to film content for them.
That's great.
They have 140,000 trainers that they certify. They're the premier certifying agency for trainers, and they are creating educational content for their trainers specifically to help their trainers be better for people like us, people that have obesity, people who use a GLP-1, and they are actively trying to make trainers better. And the reality is, and I talked with them about this, and I talk about this frequently, if you are listening to this and you are scared to go to a gym, I get why you feel that way. Because when you are in a larger body, you are judged, or you certainly feel like you're judged all the time.
That's how I felt.
Yeah. People look at you. I've had people stare at me. I used to have people take my picture when they thought I wasn't watching. And so you go through life being judged for your size. I think that's especially true for women in particular. But you go through life being judged, and you think that a gym, which is where the people who are in the best shape are, you think that they are going to be the most judgmental because they're in the best shape. But I have found it is the opposite. There are jerks everywhere. But in the gym, they understand what it takes to show up and do the work. And so if they think about you at all, it's with respect. They're proud of you for being there. I promise you. What's more likely is they're not even noticing, because most people when they're in the gym, they're really focused on themselves and what they're doing in their own movement. They might, they'll see other people there, but they're not registering it. And so I encourage people to not be scared of going to the gym. And so the two things that keep people out of a gym are, one, the judgment of others, but two, the fear that they won't know what they're doing. which is why, we can talk about now some of the movements you can do from home. When you start working out from home, you can begin to prove to yourself that you actually can do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so ideally, in a perfect world, you do stuff from home, you feel comfortable, you prove you can do it, you get a little stronger. And then when you're ready, then you can go join a gym. And then you don't have to worry about the physical stuff because you've already yourself, you can do the physical stuff. And so, one of the at-home movements we talked about is probably the most important one, and it's squatting. So if you imagine squatting is literally just, if you think about getting on a toilet and getting up, that's what squatting is. You're sitting down and getting up. And when you are in a gym, if you're just doing that squatting, it's a body weight squat. Stand, squat down, even, but not sitting. And sometimes people will put weight. So they'll put like weight up on their shoulder, called a barbell squat, where they're holding weight and they hold it up here. Sometimes they do weight where they hold it in front of them. It's called the goblet squat. So like if I'm holding imagine a goblet in my hands, I'm with a pound of fat here.
So find that difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can do what I encourage you to do from home, which is called the box squat. A box squat in the gym is just setting a box down and sitting on the box and getting back up. From home, you can do that with a chair. And squats are one of the best exercises you can do. I don't like doing them. I do them. I hate doing them. But when you're as big as I was, like getting down and getting up is really hard, even from a
Yeah.
And so for me, it's more of a mental thing than anything. But so I coach people now. I'm a trainer, and I've been coaching 14 people the last few months. And for a few of them, what one of their workouts is every morning when they get up, they sit on the side of their bed and they stand up and sit down 5 times. And then right before they go to bed at night, they stand up and sit down on the bed 5 times and then go to bed. That box squat is, whether you're holding anything in your hands or not, is the best beginner workout. It's very safe because if you end up unsteady, you're over a chair, so you can just sit right back and catch your breath. It's a fantastic way to just get started, and you could advance it with time by just holding something in your hand. So you can hold a backpack in your hand and just fill the backpack or any sort of bag or a suitcase or something with as much or as little weight as you want. You can hold a gallon of water, which is about 8 pounds. And if you hold that right in front of your chest and get up and down, now you're doing the goblet squat, holding some weight. So that's the first thing I would suggest people do if they're able to stand up and sit down at all. And even if when you start, you have to use your hands to push you up, then do that. It's perfectly okay to do that. And maybe over time, you won't need your hands anymore to push yourself up.
I imagine that still gives you a little bit of muscle in your arms. If you're pushing yourself up, you're doing a little.
No, actually, Kat, it's, I talk to a lot of trainers. In fact, this week I went and spoke to a group of trainers at a really large gym in town. And I've been like doing these pop quizzes with trainers all over the country. And I asked them, all right, you have a client who has obesity. They're 50, 100, 200 plus pounds extra weight. You're going to get them in the gym. What do you think is the best workout you can have them do that's going to make them realize they're stronger than they think? So far, none of them have figured it out, which tells me why it's so important for people like us to be in the industry sharing these stories.
Yes.
And I tell people, not your legs, because of course, if you're really big, you generally have strong legs because you have to carry it around. Mm-hmm. But it's your arms, it's the triceps. So the triceps, if you're watching a video, are the muscle on the back of your arm here. When you are in a seated position and you stand up and you have to push yourself up, those are your tricep muscles that you're working. You're actually doing a workout every time you push yourself up out of a chair. And so people who have obesity tend to have really strong triceps, like the strongest triceps. And so when you go into a gym, there are things called tricep pushdowns, where it's basically you use a cable machine and you use a rope and you just the rope and you just push the rope. Most of us who've had obesity, like we rock that. We are so good at that one. And I encourage people, like if you do go to a gym, is do that exercise because it feels really good. It's really good at the gym to do things that you're good at and that remind you that you do have a bit of strength. And so I'm encouraging folks with obesity to do that. And I'm also encouraging trainers to work that, because lean into your strengths. And the obesity caused you to have strong triceps. Sucks that obesity happened in the first place, but congratulations, you have strong triceps. Go use them. Keep them strong. And the nice thing is, Having good muscular triceps helps with the loose skin on the arms as you lose weight as
It
well.
really does. It really does. That's a really good idea that you mentioned about, was it somebody that you train that does 5 squats when they wake up and then 5 squats before they go to bed?
Just on their bed.
I feel like my chiropractor would love me for that, because when you get up immediately and jump and start moving, that's when you throw out a muscle or you pull something, right? I am going to start doing that. Just 5 little plain like squats.
Yep, Tom, just stand up and sit down, like get out of bed and sit down on bed. Get out of bed, sit down on bed. Yeah.
Like most of the injuries that you experience as you age usually happen within first waking up, because your muscles are so cold.
Yep, and it's a great way to get started, very safe.
That's interesting. It makes me think, so I'm really glad that you are coaching other trainers about working with patients with obesity. That makes me think of, I no longer do this, but it was about 10 years ago, I got certified and trained to teach Zumba. And I remember, and COVID happened, and I was like, I can't afford to keep up this monthly membership to teach Zumba, so I canceled. But I remember the guy that led the workshop, he said something so profound to me, because of course I was the biggest person in the room. He said, every single one of you is going to touch someone in a different way that the other person can't touch. So we need people of all sizes. We need people of all, athletic levels. We need every single one of you to connect with someone that won't connect with the next person. And that makes me think of our trainers that we work with at most anywhere. They need to have that background.
Yeah, when I first started exploring this, and not that I'm doing training as a career, but I was a little worried that you go to a gym and a lot of these trainers, they're young, they're in their 20s. They've never had more than like 3 pounds of fat on their body, and phenomenal shape. Well, at least in phenomenal physical shape. They look like they're in great shape. And I thought, well, here's me who's, I was 650 pounds. I'm still big. I'll always be bigger. Just as part of, who I am. I don't mind it. I like it. But, I thought, who would want to hire me who's now almost 50 and has lost 370 pounds and still bigger? And I realized almost everyone, because you tend to want people who have maybe been down the path you've been on. So I think before we wrap up today, we can talk about some more movements, but I do like talking about, like, if you want to go to a gym, like, how do you find the right gym? How do you find the right trainer? Like, I think that's something for us that we could talk about, but there are the right trainer for everyone out there.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's chat about, how do you find, because some people, maybe a train is appropriate for you. Like, for example, I know people who, if they follow the show here, I love my cycle bar, but it has to be the East Cobb cycle bar. I do weights independently. My husband and I just go to a small gym, and I live with him. So as of lately, I've been lifting, 2 nights a week at another facility. But I love my cycle bar. And at one point in time, I was doing 6 classes a week. Now with having all the jobs in the land, I haven't had as much time, but it's true. Like, the facility, the network, the people, your tribe. So that's the reason why I love my cycle bar. So it's kind of like finding, like you said, like the right place where you connect the most.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Yeah, I think that's what's really important about this. You have to feel like it's a place that you're comfortable and that you belong. And that's what's really critical about finding a gym. I actually want to provide a service. I've done it now twice for people. If you want help finding a gym and a trainer, I can actually help you by interviewing trainers for you. But if you do this on your own,
So smart, Jamie, I like that. That's a great
the thing is, like, what I do is basically I find out, what do you want to do at a gym, and where do you live, and then I look for 5 or 6 gyms in the area, identify them, and then I have you do what I'm about to talk that everyone should do on their own anyway. Once you identify a gym that you think you really like, then I look at who all their trainers are, and then I interview the trainers for them. And I basically ask the trainers a variety of questions, and then I go back to the clients and I say, okay, here's a couple of gyms that I think you'd like, and here are some of the trainers of those gyms who I think would be a good match for you. Now you should go talk to the trainer. Because a lot of people think that you have to pick the trainer that they give you, but you don't. My advice, and so this is what I basically help people do or do for them. If you're curious about joining a gym, you should look for the gyms that are nearby. They should be close enough that you don't have an excuse not to go. The perfect gym that is a 45-minute drive from you is unless you are truly committed to driving 45 minutes one way to that gym, you're not going to do it. It's going to be easy to skip out on. Find a gym that's just good, that is maybe a 10-minute drive. Like that is more likely for you to get there. You don't want to create barriers, but look for a few gyms that are close enough to you that you think you'll go to them, and then just go there and ask them for, generally I like a 7-day pass. They will often give it to you for free, or they'll be willing to sell you a pass for just money. And so get a 7-day pass. I'm not even saying work out there. You could go to 5 gyms and get a 7-day pass at all of them on one day. So once you have access to the gym, I want you to think about what are the times that you typically would go to a gym. Often what happens is we go to a gym and join at a time when we have some free time, and that may not be when we're going to work out. And so we go to these gyms. We will often make an appointment, and we'll go at like 10 o'clock on a Tuesday or something. And we'll go there and the gym is empty. We're like, oh, this is so great. I want to work out here. No one's here. Well, you're going at a time when no one goes to the gym. So instead, get a membership, and then think of the times you're going to go to a gym. I might go to a gym at like 5 or 6 o'clock on a weekday. I might go to a gym at 9 on a weekend morning. Maybe I'll go to a gym at like 7 a.m. before work or something. So whatever the times that you are likely to go to a gym, go back to the gym with your 7-day pass during that time when you're going to be there, and walk around the gym. Don't even work out if you don't want to. Walk around the gym, check it out, get the vibe, see how busy it is, and then ask yourself, do I think I'd be comfortable coming here at this time? And you may find that you were not comfortable going there at that time. Maybe you don't like the crowd. Maybe you don't like how busy it is. But that will allow you to sort of whittle down the gyms that you are interested in going to. If a gym will not sell you a 7-day pass or even a 1 or 2-day pass, then don't join that gym, because if they're not willing to like give you a bit of rope to like.
If you're like most of us, you've been denied a GLP-1 at least once. But did you know that less than 1% of denied claims are ever even appealed, even though the data suggests that over 60% of appeals are often approved? That means that people who should be paying $25 a month are instead paying thousands of dollars a year out of pocket, not necessarily because appeals don't work, but because the process is confusing and time-consuming. But that's where Honest Care comes in. You go to their site, and then you just start with a quick assessment. And then Honest Care will build your appeal with the clinical and medical arguments that your insurer needs to hear, and then guide you through submitting it. If you've been denied, don't stop there, because most appeals must be filed within 90 days. So don't wait. Go to findhonestcare.com/Kim to get your free assessment today. That's findhonestcare.com/Kim.
Like sort of test things out. They're not going to be a good gym for you. So only go to gyms that they actually want to work with you and give you a pass. Beyond that, if you decide you want a personal trainer, I'm a huge supporter of personal trainers, which at this point, I mean, so much so that I became one. Trust me, if you'd have said, Jamie, what are 10,000 jobs you'll have in your life? Personal trainer would not have been in the list of 10,000, like been higher than personal trainer. And so I'm a huge believer in them. Even if you don't use one forever, use one for at least a month or two. Anyway, so here's what you do. You at your gym, you find a gym you like, assuming they have personal trainers there. Ask to meet with all the personal trainers, and spend time ahead of time thinking and literally writing down the questions that you want to ask them. Here are the questions that I encourage you to ask trainers. And if you follow me on TikTok and YouTube, I have content, I have videos where I talk about this process if you need more detail, or you can reach out to me if you need any advice. But if you ask the trainer questions like, have you ever trained somebody my size before? Ask them what their experience level is training clients who have obesity. Talk about any limitations you may have physically. For example, you may not be able to get on the ground and get back up, which is very normal for us when we're larger. And you can ask a trainer, okay, I have this limitation. How would you work around this for me? And basically ask the trainer some questions about your specific needs. And ask the trainer if they're willing to do one workout with you for free, or if you pay them, just to do one session with them to see how you feel, because you spend a lot of time with the trainer. You spend a lot of time with them, like, you're doing the lifting and they're helping with that. And then in between that, they're like, you're resting and you're just talking to them. You get to know these folks pretty well. You also see what they're trying to do. If you go hire a trainer and all they do is they throw you on a treadmill for 45 minutes while they stand by you, don't waste your money. You can do that yourself. You don't need someone to do that. A trainer should really help you with resistance training. That's what their focus should be. So interview the trainers, interview multiple trainers. Even if you love the first one, don't say yes. Get a session with them, get the questions answered, and then interview other trainers and find someone who you think you're comfortable with. In addition, I would be cautious about long-term contracts. And sometimes we can't avoid it. Sometimes you have to sign like a 6-month contract or something. There is value in signing a contract with a trainer, which is, and I found this myself when I'm coaching people. And I don't have contracts for people I coach. I let people cancel anytime because I do online coaching and I want people to go to a gym. So if someone says I'm going to a gym, I'm like, sweet, I'm going to stop training.
Yeah.
Or get a trainer in a gym instead. But if you have a contract with a trainer, you're more likely to show up because you're paying for it. And so there is a value in that, but I'd be really cautious about anything more than like a 6-month contract. If someone tries to rope you into a year right away, be cautious, talk them down to 6 months. And if they're saying, no, I'm not going to do any sessions with you until you sign a contract, run the other way.
Mm-hmm.
That is a trainer who does not believe in themselves and they don't think they can help you. So they're trying to get you roped to do a contract. That's what that means. Anyway, so go through those things in terms of finding a gym, follow the process to find a trainer, and don't just accept the trainer they give you. And don't accept, like, if you interview 5 trainers and you don't feel great with any of them, don't hire the best one out of the bunch. If you don't feel great, go find another gym. Go find more trainers.
Yeah.
Find an online trainer and work up to it. But anyway, so that's why I help people do that myself. But these are things you can do on your own by just going to a gym and just talking to people.
How do you feel about, like, say, if we're just getting started and maybe like budget is a concern? I know that I've tried like group fitness weightlifting classes. Like sometimes they call it muscle pump or I think it was muscle pump. There's something else, muscle madness classes like that. What are your thoughts about that? Taking, weightlifting or free weight classes?
Yeah, there's a few things where they will sometimes train like big group classes at once. The problem with a big group classes at once is you're not really getting the individual attention for your specific lift. And so I think because of that, they're going to use weights that are pretty light that aren't going to challenge you a whole lot because they don't want you to get injured. And so that's the problem with a big group class. But a lot of gyms will offer small group coaching where they will have 2 or 3 people at a time going through the session. So for example, let's say you do like a bench press. Everyone kind of can visualize a bench press. So I do my bench press. My trainer's there watching me doing my thing. I'm working out with 2 other people. They're just hanging out. They're just sitting there. They're like walking or something. And then I do the bench press and the other person sits down and does it. That ends up, you're able to save quite a bit of money doing that because they'll often cut the price in half or a third. The downside is you're now working out with a few other people. Hopefully you're comfortable with them, but it is a great way to sort of get into it without having to invest a huge amount of money.
Yeah, that's another really good idea. And if you usually end up, I find that a lot of times when you make friends with working out, a lot of times they become lifelong. So. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. And it's good to have that sort of accountability aspect of it if you're working with other people. For me, the trainer is an accountability piece that was critical for me as I started because I was doing 2 sessions a week with my trainer. And I know, especially early on, there were days that I would not have gone. Like I would not have gone to the gym, except my trainer was waiting. So I went. And now that's not as much of an issue, but it certainly was at the beginning. So having that accountability of a trainer or a workout partner can be really helpful.
That's a good segue because when people always ask about how do you find motivation, and we always talk about how motivation is kind of a farce. You just mentioned you didn't want to go because there are many mornings I wake up just cranky as hell. Yeah. But I put on my shoes and the clothes and go. So what are your thoughts about motivation?
I really am a believer in consistency and discipline. But how that actually shows up when it comes to the gym is when you are going to a gym or working out from home, I really encourage you to focus on the word E or the letter E for enjoy. You should find exercises, movements that you enjoy doing. Like I enjoy doing the tricep stuff because I have strong triceps. I enjoy doing leg press where you sit down and you press weight with your legs. I enjoy that because I have strong legs. I don't do cardio. I do not like cardio. I don't jog. I don't run. I don't use an elliptical. I don't use a stair climber. I don't like any of that stuff. I walk.
You
I walk.
Yeah.
And so, technically, walking is cardio. So find things that you like doing. And there's some things that I don't like doing that I still do. I mentioned the squats. I'll do those a little bit, but I don't make those the focus of my workout. I do those right away. The thing I don't like, I get it out of the way right away. And then I get to work on stuff that I enjoy doing. So find things that you like doing, and then you don't have to worry about the motivation so much. Because it's hard if you have to motivate, like if I have to motivate myself to do something I hate, what are the chances that I'm going to be motivated, first of all, or it's going to work? Pretty slim. But if I'm going to do something that I at least somewhat enjoy, then the motivation is a little bit easier. And then the second part about that, this is especially true if you go to a gym. Maybe Kat, you do the same thing I do. For me, the hardest part about going to a gym is not anything in the gym. It's going from the car to the door. If I'm sitting in my car, even now, I'm a trainer. I've lost 370 pounds. I love lifting weights and working out. Even now, 95% of the time, I sit in my car and think like, I don't want to do this. So there are times I'll sit in the car for like 10 or 15 minutes, just like avoiding going in. And unless my trainer's waiting, then I go in right away. And it's just part of, I don't think it's ever going to change for me. And so I'm aware of this. I'm aware that's going to be the hardest part for me. And so I give myself generally 5 minutes, unless, I have something going on where I'm like, okay, I'll let myself just sit here. And then I'll start to negotiate with myself a little bit and say, like, I'm just going to go in today and do 5 minutes of something. And if after 5 minutes I am done, I don't want to do it, I'll give myself the permission to leave. And there are times where, and what I found is every time I've gone to the gym, I've spent more than 5 minutes. But there are times when I've been at a gym now, like I plan on working out for an hour and I'm there for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And I will have a moment in my head where I'm like, you know what? I think I'm done. I think I'm done today. And I'll leave. And that's perfectly okay. I went there. I walked through the door. I did some workouts. Could I have been perfect that day? Sure. But I'm like, you know what? I'll come back again in a couple of days. I'm just done. I'm sort of over it right now. And I'll leave. And that's okay to do too. We don't have to be perfect. If I did that every time, it might be a problem. But I give myself the permission and the grace to just be okay. So don't rely on that motivation. Instead, do things you like and just be prepared and negotiate with yourself and make a plan. Just go in for a few minutes or get started. I encourage people to do this, especially when it comes to like walking. A lot of people really struggle with getting their steps in. Or doing anything around the house. Cleaning is movement.
It is.
Set a timer on your phone for 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever you're comfortable with, and say, I'm going to go walking until the timer goes off. Once the 5 minutes is done, I'm going to stop walking. I'm going to stop cleaning. I'm going to stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. And then when that timer goes off and it beeps, then you can decide, okay, should I keep going or should I just go sit down again like I was before? And if you go down again, that's okay. You've done it. You got 5 minutes in a little while, maybe set another timer. Generally, you're going to find that once you get started with something, the walk or whatever, the workout, the cleaning, the gardening, you're going to keep doing it once the timer goes off. But if you need that timer to force yourself to do it rather than wait to be motivated to do it, you'll be way more successful.
I agree. I agree with that. That makes me think of like Kim's always said that, like, I want to see how I can do, like, start with cleaning or doing laundry. And I'm thinking like right now we're in April, so people are landscaping, they're working on their yards. That's activity because you're sweating like crazy. Absolutely. I guess I'm a cardio bunny. That made me think of when you said when you get to the parking lot. My cycle bar membership costs, it's, what is it called? Boutique Fitness. So it's a little pricey. So that gets me out of my freaking bed. And if I don't show up to a class that I'm registered for, I'm out another $25.
Yeah, exactly. You lose money. You don't want to lose money.
I want to lose that money. But there was like this morning, it was a Saturday morning. It was a lazy Saturday morning, but I went and I did my spin class. This happens a lot. I'm in the first song and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. well, you're here. So, and then by the next song, I'm having a great time. But you're right. Like, we all get it. Yeah. I think sometimes maybe the misperception is that, like, you and I, we don't want to do it, but we have those days.
We so often let perfect, they say don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Agreed.
We so often think, I can't be perfect today, so I'm not going to do anything at all. But we just have to be consistently good. Doing 80% effective 100% of the time is great. If you are perfect, but you're only perfect once a month, then you end up failing it. This is my philosophy. My coach is called My One Change coaching, because this is the whole core idea of it, is not having to be perfect and change a whole bunch of stuff, just doing basic things one at a time. It's especially relevant when it comes to working out. And it's okay if you're like Kat and you're at that moment like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. If you would have left after 5 or 10 minutes, that would have been fine. That would have been okay. You just have to forgive yourself and say, I'll do better next time.
I've done that at gyms before, though. I'm like, this is boring. Give it 5 minutes and I'm done. And I've done that. So yeah, I have done it before.
Yeah, it's okay to do, because it's about over time, are you consistently showing up and consistently doing the work, not worrying about there was a time or two where you failed or didn't succeed.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I do want to also touch on, so if you don't follow Jamie, you should. You post like really great inspirational things every single day.
Thanks.
And they re-energize me. So what are some of the things that you keep in mind every day when we're talking about your journey?
So every morning on TikTok and YouTube, I post daily affirmations, and they're generally going to be health focused or mindset focused. And I look at I record them and then I post them every day. But like every day when I'm posting it, I'm like really thinking through and telling myself this affirmation. So I do it for others, but I'm really doing it for myself as well. Mm-hmm. In terms of like every day, I really try to be focused on how far I've come, not how far I have to go when it comes to fitness and weight loss. And the absolute best thing I ever did for myself in this whole journey was accepting that it was going to take longer than I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And it is very normal for those of us who are trying to lose weight to want fast results. We see this, with people who use GLP-1. Someone messaged me today who started GLP-1 2 months ago, and they messaged me very upset because they said they'd only lost 30 pounds. I've only lost 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And I did not lose anything my first 3 months. So I'm like, well, you're kicking my butt.
Yeah.
And so the reality is you have to accept it's going to take longer than you want. It maybe took you years. In my case, like 35 years, I've had obesity. It took you years to get here. You're not going to fix it in days, weeks, or even months. The best thing I did for myself was say, this is going to take me 5 years. 5 years from beginning to end. And that includes at some point I'll have skin removal surgery, whatever. I'm just over 3.5 years into this journey. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, when you accept it's going to take longer than you want, then everything gets easier. The little stalls and plateaus that we have don't bother us as much. I know. We don't get so focused on getting to a certain goal weight by summer so we can look better in a certain clothing item or whatever. When you give yourself permission that it's going to take longer than you want, everything gets mentally much easier to do. And I will tell you, as someone now looking back, having lost a lot of weight, it feels like that. I just click my fingers. It feels like it took no time whatsoever. In the moment, it feels like it's forever. But looking back, I cannot believe how fast all this went. The last 3.5 years went by so quickly. I'm sure if anyone out there is a parent, they think about your kids and how fast they grow up. Your body is sort of the same way as you lose weight. And so part of what I try to do every day is just remind myself that I've come a long way, and all the good things that have happened because of it. I have a book of wins. I encourage people to actually do that, where you get actual pen and paper and write down your successes, all the little wins you've had. Doesn't matter how big or small they are. If you go to a gym for 5 minutes and you've not been to a gym before, well, congrats. You should write that down.
Big win.
And I really like writing. I have well over 1,000 on my list now over the last few years. And it's really good to celebrate those moments as they happen and write them down, because by writing them down, you're like imprinting them in your brain. And when you're having those rough days or those bad moments, pull that list out and look at it. And you are reminded you've come so far and you've done so much. And things that at the beginning you thought were a win are now just like your regular life and not a big deal. So I encourage you to do that every single day as you go. But I just try to find, in terms of movement, I try to incorporate movement into everything that I do. For example, if I go to a store and there's like automatic, sliding doors, and then to the side there's like a push door, I always go to the push door every time. One, I get a few extra steps doing it.
Yeah.
A little bit of resistance. I'm sort of like, pushing the door, pulling the door.
That's true.
There is a mental thing that tells me that I could take the easy way here, which is the sliding door, but I'm taking the harder way, even though it's not that hard. It's a little harder.
A little bit.
And it reminds me that I can do hard things. And I don't default to the easiest thing all the time. Sometimes I do, but I try to default to a thing that's just a little bit harder. And so that might mean parking a little further away in a parking lot to get my steps in. I live in an apartment building. I have a recycling garbage chute. I could walk like the whole bin of recycling down there and dump it at once. Instead, I just grab stuff with my hands, and now I'm going to have to take 3 or 4 trips back and forth to do it. Like, I try to do things like that all the time to incorporate movement into my life. And you'd be surprised how natural that becomes over time.
That's interesting. It made me think of, while I'm listening to all this, it's always, fitness is so important to your mental, but it also becomes like strengthening your mental muscle while you are strengthening your body, your heart, and your muscles. Is such a change. I think sometimes, I know that at the beginning of this episode, we were talking about like finding your why, or finding an activity that like you enjoy. That's another big thing that's going to really help with your mental health. Because I know that like going through loss and going through significant changes in life, I have to say, even during those times, go sweat it out and then feel so much better.
That's why I really encourage people to get into walking or biking or something where you can get out into nature. I am agonizing now because, as you mentioned, we're in a blizzard, and so I can't be outside. I really want to go hiking. And I walk at least 7 miles a day, not for weight loss. It helps for weight loss, but I walk because it is like my mental health exercise more than anything. Mm-hmm. Because especially when I'm outside, I'm looking at nature, I'm watching the birds and checking out the trees, and I'm looking at the clouds and trying to imagine what they look like. And I like walking in parks and everywhere I can walk. And for me, that's my mental health. That's my therapy I do, which is the walking. And so because of that, when I'm out walking or hiking, I don't go for speed. I'm not walking really, I'm not fast with time, but I'm not out there like intentionally like speed walking. I'm out there just to sort of enjoy the day and get some fresh air and take in nature. And the same thing applies for those, I think, who go to the gym, whether you do cardio in the gym or lifting weights. Often when you're doing that movement, you are clearing your head of other things. Because trust me, if I'm sitting there lifting weights, whatever stressed me at that moment, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about like, damn, this is really heavy. And so it's a good way to clear your head of other things that are getting in the way.
Yeah, so much so. I had a thought and it went away because I was so intent listening to you with the walks. It's what it is. It's also very grounding. I think it's just a good mental health practice, but being out in nature is grounding just for humans. Yeah. For us animals,
Absolutely, yeah. And especially as we're getting into spring and summer now, even if it's a few minutes a day, one thing that I encourage folks I coach to do, or really anyone, is especially if you're having a hard time getting your steps in, every time you eat, go for like a little 5 or 10 minute walk. if you're able to. Walk up and down your driveway or walk around the block if you can do it. Just every time you eat, just one, it's good for digestion, so you'll feel better. But it's also just a sort of a way to separate yourself and do a little mind clearing after eating. You can incorporate movement in that way. It's good for you physically and mentally.
Yeah, it's good for your digestive system too. Yeah, a little walk afterwards. That's very helpful. Keep our systems, in tip-top shape. It's, I feel like we've definitely we've tackled that throughout this episode. It's not about the cosmetic. It's not about how good you're going to look in your jeans. For me, it's, I avoid going crazy. A good sweat is mentally clearing.
Yeah, it's all good for our body, which reminds me, in terms of like if you are just starting, none of this should hurt. If you're ever feeling any sort of sharp pain as you're doing any of this stuff physically, whether it be walking or lifting weights, whatever, that is your cue to stop. Seek medical help if you need it. None of this should hurt. There's a difference between soreness. Like the day after you work out, especially when you're first starting, you might have just some general soreness. That's normal. It's lactic acid in your body building up. But if you're ever working out, you're feeling any sort of sharp pain, don't tell yourself like, I got to feel the burn and I got to like work through the pain. Don't injure yourself. None of this should start easy, start slow. None of this should hurt at all. What you don't want to do is injure yourself and then put yourself further behind.
Be a hero. There's no glory in pain.
Yeah, there's no benefit in hurting yourself in the gym as someone who's done it many times. And to be honest, like for all of us, especially as we get older, we are going to have little tweaks here and there. But when it happens, it's okay to rest and recover and don't make the injury worse by working through it.
Yeah. So I'd say, and short, in summary, definitely, find your why. Motivation is not really a thing, right? It's about discipline and finding what you like. So if you're enjoying what you're doing, it won't be as difficult to find that movement. Yeah. And also do squats when you wake up in the morning. I'm going to incorporate that now.
You can change your life if you do some squats on your bed in the morning and at night. Add 5 minutes of walking every time you eat, and every time you go to the bathroom, drink a glass of water to stay hydrated. If you do nothing else but those things,
great,
you will notice significant life changes very quickly if you just do those things and nothing else.
I think anybody, even if like people like us, if I'm really active and I just incorporate that, I'm going to pay special attention to see if that, I think it will, like drinking water each time you use the restroom, right? Yep. Squatting in the morning, walking after. And if you're not moving at all, a 5-minute walk each time you eat, I would assume you're eating 3 times a day. That's a 15-minute walk.
Yep. Which is all going to be 1,500 or 2,000 steps for most people.
Yeah.
Yep.
No sweat.
Yep.
No sweat.
And literally you won't even sweat because you're just walking.
I sweat easy.
Oh, you sweat. When I was 650 pounds, I could sort of like lifting my arm would cause me to break out in sweat. Now I never sweat. Now that I've lost all this weight.
When you said you don't sweat when you lift weights, I remember once I was working with the trainer and it was just weights. We just did weights. And she's like, you don't sweat. I'm like, trust me. And I would take my towel with me because I would be doing back flies and it would just drip, drip, drip. Yeah. I'm still so hot natured. Yeah. Well, this was a great chat. I hope you've, all of our listeners, I hope you all got some really great tidbits. Make sure you follow Jamie. We'll add that to the show notes. So we'll drop all of Jamie's socials. Just follow him just for his daily messages. I appreciate that, Jamie. I like getting your messages every day.
Every time I post on social media, I ask myself, what did I learn? What mistakes did I make? What do I wish I would have known? And what would I need to know to be successful in the future? And I ask myself, and if I can answer one of those 4 questions with content, I'll post it. And so that's why I post 3 times a day answering those questions.
I love it. And check out his lives on TikTok as well. Do you do lives on YouTube?
I do lives on YouTube. I started doing YouTube lives, so you can actually go watch their archives. So you can go on my channel and watch those over there. So yeah, I enjoy doing the YouTube lives as well.
All right, so check them out. I appreciate you so much, Jamie. Now go out there and take a walk, everybody. Oh, and like what Kim says, hasta la pasta. You're not alone. It's not your fault. Thank you for listening. Oh, before I go, leave us 5-star reviews.
And follow, subscribe, all that stuff.
Yep, all that stuff. I'm not ashamed. I'm not too proud to beg. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. And thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
If you're like most of us, you've been denied a GLP-1 at least once. But did you know that less than 1% of denied claims are ever even appealed, even though the data suggests that over 60% of appeals are often approved? That means that people who should be paying $25 a month are instead paying thousands of dollars a year out of pocket, not necessarily because appeals don't work, but because the process is confusing and time-consuming. But that's where Honest Care comes in. You go to their site, and then you just start with a quick assessment. And then Honest Care will build your appeal with the clinical and medical arguments that your insurer needs to hear, and then guide you through submitting it. If you've been denied, don't stop there, because most appeals must be filed within 90 days. So don't wait. Go to findhonestcare.com/Kim to get your free assessment today. That's findhonestcare.com/Kim. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Roe now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper, with results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster. Confidence higher. Price cheaper. See if you qualify at roe.co/TV.